We'll come to that in a bit. Alright, so not too long time ago in a university far away on the western side of Singapore, I graduated with an honors degree and was feeling pretty smart about myself. Hey, I got a degree. What am I going to do now? I'm going to conquer the world. And I was trying to decide, what am I going to do with my life now? It's a stepping stone, right? And I realized, as some of the earlier speakers have discussed, what I like to do is research. At least I thought at the time I like to do research. So that's what I did. I said, alright, I like research, I'm going to do research, I'm going to do a PhD. Now, had I known I'd be worrying that at graduation, I might have thought twice about doing a PhD here. But well, hindsight's a wonderful thing. So, this is the evolution of a thesis, right? I started out there about 2 years ago, and right now I find myself here for the past 2 years. And in the 2 years I've spent in this position, still walking upright on my 2 legs, I've noticed that a few questions tend to surface again and again and again. How's your research? Wonderful question. Running your experiment again? And where's my supervisor when I really need him? They're never around when you want them. But when you have nothing to show, they're always asking you, okay, let's talk in my office now. It's uncanny, right? More importantly, what day of the week is it? You're in the lab so often, Sundays become Mondays, Mondays become Fridays. There is no time. But I didn't go into research for that. I went into research to do a PhD because of the joys of discovery. I like discovering stuff, and I discovered some very interesting things in my 2 years. Experiments work only once, never again, as much as you try. I have wonderful job prospects when I graduate. I have to pay people to let me work. PhD comics on lovely face. But more importantly, I discovered that there is a lot of stuff that I do not know. Alright? The more I go into it, I came out pretty clever about it. Now, so many things, I just don't have an answer for them. So I asked myself, what was I thinking? Was I really even thinking when I decided to do a PhD? Probably not. I could have been intoxicated at the time, I'm not sure. But this was a turning point. A couple of years ago, I happened to come across this paper during my undergraduate days, and while doing my PhD and going through some of my old files, I found this again. The Importance of Stupidity in Scientific Research by Martin Schwartz, published in 2008 in the Journal of Cell Science. And once you read that, oh my gosh, epiphany, I saw the light, alright? While I thought doing a PhD was about me having to be clever, I had actually gotten it in complete reverse. The idea of doing a PhD is really, I need to be stupid. Alright, so you want to know a little secret? I was talking with Prof. Tang a couple of weeks back during the induction day, and this is something I discovered, and even some of the Dr. Koh and Dr. Loh have mentioned it as well in the talks. Research is a life of failure, alright? Deal with it. This is the one thing, our entire lives, stupidity and failure. We never really think good about them, From the time, at least in Singapore, from the time you're in primary school, secondary school, you cannot fail. Don't be stupid, you cannot fail. You have to do all of your exams. Even up to uni, I have a cap to maintain. Even in NGS, I have a cap to maintain. But the cap's fine. I maintained it. But stupidity and failure, we always see them as really bad things. Even A star, not to badmouth it, but A star, it's an A, it's a grade. We aim for success. We aim to be intelligent. Alright, and failure, well, it's priceless. That is a classic moment. But the question then I put to you, are stupidity and failure really that bad? Is it such a bad thing? I don't think so. Right? What I believe is we need a fundamental paradigm shift, just a slight change in mindset. Right? We need to embrace our stupidity. It's as simple as that. Now, if you're not familiar with this, may the Schwartz be with you. This is from a movie, Spaceballs. Some of you may not have watched it, some of you have. It's a hilarious show, maybe about 15 years, 20 years back, by Mel Brooks. And just so you know, this was a really stupid show, but it was also funny. Alright? Now, in that article that I flashed, Martin Schwartz, what he states is very interesting. I mean, the fact of the matter is it's very, very hard to do important research. Of course, unless you're a chemist and you just change one chemical group and you've got a new publication. No offense to chemists or pharmacologists. But yes, it is very hard to do groundbreaking research. Alright? So the key to this really is to learn to be productively stupid. I'm not talking about just being passively stupid. I don't know, I don't care. But being productively stupid. Alright, and once you can get your hand around this idea, things become a lot easier. Question then, how do you be productively stupid? You go around hitting yourself on the head with a club to kill your brain cells. You can try that. I can tell you it probably won't work very well. Alright? And just to show that I'm still a scientist at this, I'm still a bit of an academic, I'm citing this. If we don't feel stupid, it means we're not really trying. So what is Martin trying to say? It's simple. To be productively stupid, you need to embrace what you don't know. Because it's only when you accept that you don't know a lot of things that you can start finding out about them. Right? Yes, it requires a bit of humility, and as you get older and sometimes become professors, it's a bit harder to admit this. But I think it's something we need to keep with us through our entire lives, regardless of what we do. Embrace stupidity. Because it's part of learning how to embrace failure. Right? If you know what you don't know, you can learn it. And also, failure is not really failure. Okay? You need to learn to fail successfully. Successful failure. I know it's quite an oxymoron, right? But this is something I strongly believe in. The age of stupid. Now we've had many ages in mankind. We started off the Ice Age, the Stone Age, the Ice Age, the Bronze Age, we even had the Sausage. Now we're in the Information Age. Alright, but really, as scientists, if we want to get to the next level, this is where we need to go. We need to go to the age of stupid. Now, this is a simple guide, okay? Something that I've kind of drawn up from my own personal experiences. What I'm not going to do is, I'm not going to quote Albert Einstein, who said, anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. Alright? Neither am I going to quote Thomas Edison, who said, I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that do not work. I'm not going to quote them. Instead, I present NGS 7003. It's a new module that I have drawn up and is probably never going to see the light of day. It's entitled Successful Failure. And there's only one real key message from it. There's always something to be learned. When I was doing my chemistry O-levels, I learned that if you hold a lit match over a beaker of hexane, the beaker is going to catch fire. And I learned if you push that burning beaker into the sink will catch fire. And I also learned that once the sink catches fire, your chemistry teacher is going to go crazy. Alright? But bringing it a bit closer to home, research. When I was once trying to extract DNA from bacterial cells, I was doing a maxi prep for those of you who know. This is like a one-day experiment. So the day before, I'm growing my cells and I finally get to the step. I'm spinning them down and beating them out and pulling that DNA out. One critical step, when I added the reagents, I forgot to mix my bottle. And the next thing I know, when I pour everything up down the sink and look for the pellet, nothing is there. I never forget that step anymore when I do my maxi preps. But more importantly, hebetude. Right? This is something I kind of gathered while actually working on this. I thought it meant stupidity. I got that from an online resource. Turns out when I checked dictionary.com, hebetude is not quite stupidity, it's a state of being dull, it's more lethargic, and it's actually a medical condition as well. So, hebetude is not really stupidity. I feel a bit stupid, but hey, I've learned a new word. And now all of you know what hebetude is as well. But more importantly, I've learned the importance of checking my sources. It's something we all should be doing in research when we go through literature reviews. Check your sources. So once you get the idea, all you really need to do then is get back to basics. I think it's something we tend to forget, the amount of information that we have, that we are just bombarded with every day. I mean, you go to PubMed and you try and do a literature search, you get 1,000 hits. How do you sift through all that? How do you make sense of it? Well, I believe certain fundamentals are important. If I'm a cell biologist, I know that cell has DNA, the DNA needs to replicate, and there's certain requirements for DNA replication. If I'm a chemist, I know these molecules will interact in a certain way because there are certain rules to follow. And once you get an idea of what these rules are, these basic rules, you find that they can be applied to just about anything. Right? I may not know about how to couple cells to plastic plates, but if I know the basics behind the chemistry, it suddenly becomes a lot easier to catch the idea. Right? When I went to Dave's lab in Liverpool, I was doing some work there, a whole lot of biochemistry, very new to me, lots and lots of columns. You add this, you pour that, and I had to troubleshoot. I had no idea what's happening. Alright? But I learned that you need to know how every piece of your experiment works. If you're running on a tube, you need to know what this tube does. Right? If you have a circuit board and you have a little transistor there, you need to know what that transistor does and why you're putting it into that circuit board. So commercial kits are a good thing because they really speed us up, but at the same time they stop us from thinking. We don't know what's happening, you just follow A, B, C, D. There's no real troubleshooting. Also, I think it's important to remember the big picture. Alright, Mr. Lu kind of alluded to it just now. As scientists, we tend to focus so much on our problem, but it's important to see how this problem fits into the bigger picture of how we're the little drop in this big universe. Because once you understand how you fit into this big picture, it's a lot easier to see how you can connect to other people. And connecting to other people is really how you get research done. I'd say interdisciplinary, but as Dave has said, it's not really interdisciplinary. So, learning to connect the dots by seeing the big picture is essential for research. Now, I'm not going to quote Steve Jobs. He said, stay hungry, stay foolish. You don't want to hear about that. Instead, this is something I'd like to propose. Embrace your stupidity, advance your research. Because once you know what you don't know, then you can find out. You know what I mean, no? Alright? Because failure is the road to success for any researcher, and you're going to get a lot of it. And if we can just get our ideas around this concept, I believe one day we all get to wear this t-shirt. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Maybe you can next year do a talk on how to not punch the $1 million machine in the monitor because it's not giving you the right results.
And we do have a time frame to adhere to, so failure has to be within a short period of time. Less than 4 years. So anyway, let us now invite Xuanqi on stage, who will tell us more about how nature can inspire a material scientist like herself to synthesize novel materials. Xuanqi, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Xuanqi from Chemical Engineering, and the title of my talk is Biomimetic Material Research. What can we learn from nature? This is the outline of my talk. First, I will give you a brief introduction of biomimetics. Okay. First, I will give you a brief introduction of biomimetics. And then I will introduce some examples from our normal life and from material science and engineering. And then 2 of my own projects will be introduced. Okay, the first question is, what is biomimetics? Bio means life or biology, and mimetic means resembling or the simulation. Okay, the biomimetics is the examination of nature, including its models, systems, processes, and elements to emulate or take inspiration from in order to solve human problems. In a word, that means we learn from nature, copy from nature, and then we solve our own problems. Here are some examples of from our normal life. We can copy the color from nature, like this camouflage uniform. we can copy the appearance from nature, like this very cute Beatles car. And we can copy the morphology of nature. I think you all know this famous building at Planet Center, or we can call it large jewelry. We also can copy the function from nature, like this radar and that. Here are the examples from our normal life, and we can see these examples in our own eyes. But I'm the student from material science, so I care more about the smaller structure, like the micro, even nanostructures. So here are some examples from material science. The first one is gecko's foot. I think maybe some of you have asked yourself why gecko can walk on the wall or even on the roof. So we take a look at the microstructure of gecko's foot, and we found that there's some hairs structure on gecko's foot. You can see this hair-like structure on the surface of its foot. This kind of structure increases the adhesion force. That means the intermolecular force is very large between the wall and the foot. Let's take a look at a very interesting movie. So now, inspired by this structure, we can create the gecko tape. This video is from Emery A. Star. First, we prepare the structure with this hair-like structure on the surface. We call it gecko-like adhesion tape. And then we put the film on the coin has nano-sized gecko-like structure on the glass substrate. And then the glass substrate is tilted at an angle. So we tilt. Okay, still tilting. Already feel excited? Okay, still tilt. Tilt. Oh, heart attack. Tilt. Please pay attention to the angle. Still tilting. Okay. Okay, it's finally dropped when the glass substrate is almost at 90 degrees. The other experiment is control experiment. Let's take a look at it. The left one is the tape with gecko foot structure. And we put on the glass substrate again. And the right one is the tape with no structure. We also put it on the substrate. Okay, then we tilt the glass again. Pay attention to the big difference between the coin. Okay, start. Okay, already dropped. But this one is still on the glass substrate. Okay, that's the amazing tape. So now, inspired by this kind of structure, we create the gecko tape. And we also can develop this tape to the Spider-Man glass. You can see this man, not cool as the Spider-Man, but he already can climb on the wall, use this kind of glass. I think this invention maybe can make lots of boys' dream come true to be a Spider-Man. The next example is butterfly structural color. Why we call it structural color? That is because when we see the color of the butterfly's wings in different direction, we see the different color. That's not because of the pigmentation or the dye, that is because of the special layered structure of the butterfly's wing. You can see this is the layered structure of the cross-section of butterfly's wing. This is the mechanism. That is because of the diffraction and reflection of light on the outer layer structure. And inspired by this structural color, people can create the clothes with structural colors. It's color, I think, is beautiful. And the important is the color will never fade. Okay, the last famous example in material science is rotor sleeve. I think everyone has seen the beautiful droplet on the soft surface of rotor sleeve and it move around very funny. That's because the rotor sleeve has super hydrophobic surface. When we take a look at the macro structure, and we know why. That is because the rough surface with wax. This kind of surface has self-cleaning ability. That means when droplets move around on the surface of rotor sleeve, they can carry the particles or the dust on the surface. So, inspired by this structure, people can create self-cleaning glass. You can see the big difference between these two glass. This one is very clean, and then this is full of droplets. Okay, here are some famous examples from material science and engineering. Now it's time for me to introduce my own project, the bio-inspired synthesis of calcium carbonate. So the calcium carbonate is the common substance found all over the world, like rocks, and it is also an important biomineral found in biology systems, like the shell of eggs, crabs, corals, and some seashells. So studying calcium carbonate is very important for biomineralization, crystallography study, and some potential applications development. Okay, the first project, I call it bio-inspired synthesis of bacterium-like double-shelled calcium carbonate macrocapsules used for detoxifying heavy metal ions. It's a very long title, but I will explain it. This is the common structure of bacteria. You can see there are two layers of this cell. We call it outer and plasma membranes. And it is reported that the minerals can be deposited on the surface or inside of the cell. And this process, we call it biologically controlled mineralization. There are three modes of this kind of process. The first one is the mineral can deposit on the surface of the cell and cover the whole surface. And the next one is they also can become the particles and deposit on some specific position on the surface. And the third one is the metallic ions can go inside of the cell and the crystallization take place inside of the bacteria. Okay, the question is that can we simulate all these three modes, including the morphology and the mineralization by our own materials? So the answer, of course, is yes. So we create the bacterium-like double-shelled calcium carbonate microcapsules. I will not mention how we create it, but you just can see this structure. It is very similar to bacteria because it has two layers. But just morphology simulation is not enough. We want to know if it can simulate all the biomineralization process, like this one. We use our microcapsule to simulate the three modes of biomineralization of bacterial cell. The results are quite good. We use three kind of heavy metallic ions to react with our calcium carbonate homemade microcapsule, and due to the nature of calcium carbonate and the special structure, we can get the three modes. The first one is lead ions react with calcium carbonate. You can see this is the element distribution test. You can see the lead containing mineral can deposit on the body of our artificial cell. And when the metallic ions change to cadmium ions, you can see the ions deposit on the surface of the microcapsule and cover it all. And the most interesting one is the reaction between mercury ions and calcium carbonate. You can see the mercury ions can go inside of the capsule and the crystallization take place inside of the artificial cell. That means this capsule can separate the toxic mercury ions with water. And then we do some, you can see this 3 mode can be simulated by our own products. And then we do some other tests. According to the detoxifying test, we know our microcapsule is very good for absorb the heavy metallic ions in water. So it can be used for water treatment. And in addition, according to the cytotoxicity test, we know our microcapsule is totally non-toxic. So it can be used as calcium supplement plus detoxifying agent, maybe for human beings. Okay, this is the first project. And the last one is the synthesis of calcium carbonate nanosheets and their hierarchical assembly to high performance artificial mercury. Okay, what is mercury? Mercury is found in some seashells. It is an organic and inorganic composite. Why we want to study this kind of mercury material? That is because it is very strong, stiff, and tough compared to other synthetic materials. Why? That's also because of its microstructure. This is the cross-section of the seashell, the mercury layer. We call it bricks and mortar structure. It contains 95% of calcium carbonate nano bricks and 5% of organic mortar layers. You can see this is the calcium carbonate nano tablet, and it is the layer by layer structure. As we know, the calcium carbonate is kind of brittle ceramic, and the interlayer of the organic mortar is a kind of soft polymers. But just combine the brittle ceramics and soft polymers in hierarchical arrangement, we can create very strong and very tough shell like this. So this is the mechanisms of mechanical strength improvement. It's not very difficult to understand. You can see when we try to break the mercury layer, this is the rough surface of calcium carbonate tablets. You can see the resistance increase when we try to move them in the different direction. And this is the interaction of polymers between the 2 calcium carbonate tablets. And you can see the breakage of the polymer is not easy. And moreover, you can see the crack. If the breakage happens, the crack need to go along very long way before breakage. That means the crack is not easy to go through. So it makes it tough and not brittle. Now it's my job to prepare our artificial mercury. First one, we produce calcium carbonate nanosheets as bricks. This is the morphology of our nanosheet. And then we mix them with gelatin solution. Gelatin is a kind of protein derived from bovine skin. And then use evaporation technique to remove the water from the solution. And then we automatically self-assemble to high-performance artificial mercury. This is the microstructure of our artificial mercury. You can see it is very similar to the natural one. And this is the product of our mercury-like film. It's transparent and we can bend it. That means it's not brittle. According to other mechanical tests, this film has very good mechanical performance compared to our normal calcium carbonate bulk sample. Okay, here is the conclusion. I just want to use these images from my own talk. I hope you can enjoy it and get some idea from my talk. And last but not least, I want to see this sentence as a gift. Study nature, love nature, stay close to nature. It will never fail you. Thank you very much for listening.
about why the heavy metal go inside the capsule and go out of it?
You mean the mercury? Mercury example?
The first experiment.
First is
The capsule.
the capsule. You mean?
Because it has a metal ion.
Oh.
What's the mechanism to attract the ions go inside the capsule?
That is like chemistry things reaction. The iron exchange between the calcium and the heavy metallic ions. So it become the lead like the lead ions. It can become the lead carbonate. So the ion exchange between the calcium and lead. Yeah. Another one is cadmium and ion exchange from calcium. So this is kind of chemistry reaction. It becomes cadmium carbonate and calcium chloride. Yeah. Okay.
How stable are the capsules? After the reaction, do you see any dispersion?
Actually, it's quite stable because calcium carbonate will be decomposed like more than 800 degrees. So it is very stable. And after the reaction, it becomes other minerals like the cadmium carbonate or something like that. And then we remove it very easy. Yeah.
Any more questions? If not, let's thank Li Xuanqi for the presentation. I really like the quote on the last one by Frank, because study nature, love nature, stay close to nature, and you have a chance to publish nature.
And so now we transition to a computational topic. We have Daniel Dahlmeier who will tell us how computers can be programmed to correct a non-fluent English sentence automatically. Daniel, please.
Okay, is it working? Great. Yeah, thanks. So originally I wanted to talk about how you can use my research to correct your papers into more fluent English. Then I realized that just talking about my research is actually not that interesting for most of the people, and not really the text-style talk that we wanted to promote this year. So instead, I'll be talking more about general things that we are doing to make computers that can understand you like the other. Right. Everyone here has taken the ethics course or will be taking it, so we should always give credit to the sources. So I took some slides from Michael Collins' website, and the rest is usually from Wikipedia or from the web. Right. So I would like to give a guess or a vision what computers might be like in the future. So Jeffrey this morning told us that they might be liquid, which is possible. But not all of them are. So we look at the sci-fi literature like iRobot, or the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or this one, 2001, Space Odyssey. The common theme that they have is that they can understand language. Right? Very well illustrated here, where Hall is telling David that he cannot open the door. It's even very polite in saying this. I'm afraid I can't. Another common theme is that the computers usually turn evil and try to kill the humans. That's like Hall was. But I'm not going to talk about that. So I'm talking about computers that can understand language. And when I say language, I'm not talking about C++, Java, or some kind of programming language. So that's what people usually understand when I say language. And say, oh yeah, so which language? C? Or... So that's not what I'm talking about. And when I say understand, it's not speech recognition. Right? That's the other misconception. Usually people say, oh yeah, speech recognition. Or robotics. Well, no. What I really mean is that they can understand good language and understand that it's intelligent. And it was recognized very early when people came up with the idea of modern computers. This is Alan Turing, who is usually considered the father of the modern computer. He devised a test, basically, to see whether computers would be intelligent. And this test was basically involving a human, interacting with a computer through a terminal. And then he would have to decide whether this computer is really a computer or a human being. So this interaction would be through natural language. so that intelligence and language are very closely related. So any really intelligent computer would have to be able to understand language. While whether language implies intelligence is not really so sure. There seems to be evidence that that is not the case. Right. On the other hand, we can ask, why is it not already there, right, as it happened? Obviously, people thought that by the year 2001 we can do this. But it turns out that language is really very hard for computers. Right? And there's just a quick comparison about the brain, which is credited with doing human language processing, and the computers that we have today. So the brain is like size of a shoebox, kind of vague, uses some logic, but probably not purely logic. Well, you can remember a lot of things, but definitely not as much as our computers today can. It works highly parallel from what we know, while the computers usually just crunch one number at a time. So they really work in quite different ways, right? So, right. But the brain is somehow able to understand language very well, while even the best computers that we have today find it very difficult. So here's an example why it might be hard for computers. Okay, so a computer can understand you like a mother. I'm sure everybody can understand that. But let's see, what could that mean? So it could mean that the computer understands you as well as your mother understands you. And I think that's a meaning that most here in the audience would have guessed. But it could also mean that the computer understands that you like your mother. Or it could mean that it understands you as well as it understands your mother. Right? Right. And even if we get so far for interpretations 1 and 3, we're not really sure whether it is good or bad. Maybe it understands you as bad as your mother understands you. Right? So it turns out that a common theme for human language, which we are not really aware of, is ambiguity. And that's at almost every level of the language processing step in the human brain. So the first one is the acoustic level. You get some kind of wave signal, and your ear transcribes it into a signal to your brain. Right? So this signal here, the computer understands you like your mother, sounds like your mother. Or maybe it says you like your mother. Not really grammatical sentence, but sounds almost the same. So when you just want to find out which words correspond to this audio signal, that's really quite difficult. Right. The next level is the syntactic level, which basically needs to structure the analyzed language. Right. So when I say a computer that understands you like your mother, this first construction here, which is a verb, a noun, and then some sentence here, would mean that it understands that you, it understands you, which is an object of the understanding. And then here is something that describes the understanding. So that is an interpretation that corresponds to the meaning 1. The second one is a verb, and then this whole phrase here is the object of the understanding. That means it understands that you like your mother. And finally, the semantics, the meaning of a language is very ambiguous as well. So the word mother can mean a woman that gives birth to a child. Apparently, this can also mean something very different. A stringy, slimy substance consisting of yeast cells and bacteria. So maybe the biologists here in the audience know whether this is correct or not. But definitely not what we thought of when we heard the sentence that something can understand you like your mother. So that's very ubiquitous in language. When you put your money in the bank, you don't go to the river bank, you dig a hole and put it inside. When you see a duck with a telescope, it's not an astronomy duck that carries a telescope around. But if you want to teach that to a computer, it's really, really hard to make him understand the thing that you want him to understand and not the other interpretation. Right. Okay, finally, this course is concerning several sentences that appear together. So, if Alice says they built a computer that understands you like your mother, and then you have the sentence, but she doesn't know any details, then she would refer back to Alice. So, another here is Alice. But she doesn't understand me at all, then she refers back to the mother. Right. So that's really easy for humans, but to really write it in a way that a computer can understand it is a very challenging task. Right. Nevertheless, natural language processing, or NLP, has made some progress over the last 10 years or so. And it's at a stage where I think it's really becoming useful, not just for NLP people to write papers and get published, but really for applications that are useful to a general audience. Right. So this is something that some of you might have used before, and that is a really good example, I think, of NLP technology for masses. So Google has built a translation system that you can use for free. When I tell people about it, and they either say, yes, it's really, really great, or I say, wow, it's really, really bad, or usually not something in the middle. So I think the people who say it's really, really bad, they expect that it's at a human level, and then they put in something like Kant or Shakespeare, and then they wonder why it doesn't come out correctly. But people who just expect that it gets somehow the meaning correct are usually okay. I mean, they can understand basically what the sentence means, even if it's not 100% fluent. Right. Here's another nice example, which was on TV recently. IBM built a computer, Watson, that was playing on the Jeopardy TV show, where the participants here are given the answer to a question, and then they have to come up with the question itself. So it's very, very general, it's open domain, can be about any topic in the world, requires a lot of world knowledge, and has ambiguities, puns, and all kinds of things that makes the language difficult. Right? And it really beat two of the best contestants in Jeopardy. So nice example to promote our research, although we didn't build this slides. Right. So now I still want to put in a little bit about my work. So we try to use some of these technologies, as I said, to build computers that can correct grammatical mistakes. So our observation was that most people who are speaking English today, or including myself, are not really native speakers. And I guess a lot of people in the audience both share the same background. So we have to speak English as a foreign language. And HSBC has recognized it as well as their business. So we thought, if we have all this data, let's say we have 1 billion words from the web, and we get statistics on what a good English sentence would look like, would we be able to correct grammatical mistakes using this NLP technology? So on a very high level, we want to build a machine where I can input some kind of sentence, and the computer can detect grammatical errors and correct them. So that involves things like article or preposition usage. So it should maybe be everyone has a different perception of privacy rather than on privacy. Or you rather watch TV in English than see TV. Or in other languages that might be different. So on a very high level, this can be done in the following way, where we find words that are confusable, and we build a set of confusable words, which we call a confusion set. And we try to basically find the most likely choice from this confusion set, given the sentence context. So in the example of the watching movie, if we have this noun movie here, we would have to choose an article. So there are only 3 choices. Either we have the article the, or we just omit the article. So we try to find the highest probability choice of the article, given the word movie and the sentence S. So let's say if I just look at the web, how often do people say watching movie compared to how often do they say watch the movie or watch movie? And similar for things like see and watch TV, we want to find out where it's more likely to see TV or watch TV. With a slight difference that here it's not really clear how we can get from see to watch. Well, it's very easy to just look up the articles in the dictionary and say, oh, these are the only choices that you can make. Right. So there's a number of things that people have tried. One is that we look at words with similar spelling, like desert and desert, or with similar phonetics, so similar sounds. So there sound similar, maybe people confuse them. Or syntax, so basically words that belong to the same category, like articles, might be confusing. Okay. So something that we sought out would be another source of confusion for non-native speakers would be their native language, or often called L1 language. So if you look up possible translation of the word see, or in Chinese, for example, we see that see, look, view, read, watch, and so on can be translated to the same Chinese word. So if you kind of still think in Chinese as a native Chinese speaker, you would have to choose from all these possible translations when you want to say something like, I want to watch TV. So from the Chinese, it goes to some kind of noisy channel to become, I like to watch, see, look, read TV. So the idea was that we can actually translate back using automatic translation techniques from a word like see to Chinese. And then the confusable words would be this, and that gives us a clue where we could look for the best possible correction. Right, so the take-home message for this talk would be that if you want to have an intelligent computer, we have to get it to understand language. It's much harder than you would probably think it is. But I think we're actually at a point where this technology can really become useful for other disciplines and for a general application. Right, and one day they will understand your language. Thanks.